Alright, hello everybody and welcome to the Mania 7-Key World Cup 2018 in the semi-final stage. First match of this weekend. I will be one of the commentators for this block. I am joined today.
Okay, that sounded a little bit lagged, I think. Or might just be me. Like when you said I'm joined here with, and it just lagged away. Anyways, yay! You can see the names right down on the screen now. That's pretty cool. So I'm Hung Crystal, commentating with the Toaster today. I think Tope is with some tech difficulties on his microphone, but hopefully that's not that big of an issue. Should be sorted out in just a moment. In any case, the Wardrobe team once again commentating here. So yeah, we have Australia versus Chile once again. This is a matchup I think happened before on the group stage. So pretty exciting to see these two teams matching each other once more and in such a harder stage. Scalim and Gonzalo. Yeah, you're back, man.
Yeah, yes, I'm good. I'm back. But yeah, like you said, this is a match we saw in group stage, as will be the second match of this block. The United States versus Japan, two teams who also met during group stage. So we're going to be able to see both of the matches with teams seeing how they're able to handle the harder map pools as opposed to the group stage that we saw.
Definitely. I think this match might not be as close though as it could have been on the group stage. I think Chile will edge out the difference on just like they're a little bit better physically, I believe, than the rest of the Australians. I feel that Sank and Suki will try to battle out against Scalim and Gonzalo, but their teammates are going to start to struggle a little bit now on this level of difficulty. I feel like Kites and Evios will be decent for the most part on this pool, but it's gonna be complicated for Australia to try and take the win against the Chilean team. Of course, because the difficulty is a bit harder and the maps are a bit longer, Chile might maybe run into stamina issues because they don't have any subs, so they can't really make any substitutions during the match. And Potassium could very well do exchanges for the SB maps for Australia. Avios could swap in for specific rice picks, and Kites will probably do alright on long notes. So Australia has a little bit more versatility in terms of team diversity, or like their players being a little more diverse than the rest. But Chile, with only Scalim and Gonzalo, they're pretty much all-rounder, both of them. So looking hard for Australia, I will say Scalim and Gonzalo are very good players. So it's gonna be a tricky thing, but hopefully we'll see a good match.
Yeah, hopefully we will be able to see a good match. So and what you were saying before about Australia having a more diverse team, that's sort of I would say that's an extension of Australia actually having a full team as opposed to Chile just having the two players. Can really put a detriment on your versatility as a team if both of the players that you have in Chile's case were all rounded. But having a full team allows you to sort of have breathing room with being super well rounded as an individual player, allowing your teammates to take skill sets that you might not be as strong at.
So we're currently, I think, waiting for Australia to appear. I think they're not online, which is surprising because I recall them being chatting on the tournament Discord and also being online on the game. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird.
Okay, so we see Sang and Suki there on the room already. So hopefully we'll see Kite, Sevius, maybe Pot joining us here. And we should be good to start with the warm-ups at any moment.
Yeah, seems at least we have Sankansuki and Evios here, so we'll be able to get underway with the matches.
So I feel the first warm-up is already in there. It's gonna be Make You Lilith. Is it?
Yes, I believe this is gonna be the first warm-up. A song from BMS probably has a similar style to the BMS map of it, and assuming that's the case, I would guess that this is Chile's warm-up. They've sort of had a theme of those kinds of warm-ups in their past rounds, just going straight chord streaming, dense style maps, probably trying to warm up their fingers or gain a little bit of an idea of whether their opponents are capable of keeping up with density like that. Something that's turning into something being very important for these later rounds, especially with some of these picks in the pool being as ridiculously dense as they are.
Well, definitely. I feel that Chile in general just feels more comfortable though, warming up with BMS style. I think everyone in general is more comfortable when it comes to Rise and warms-ups. I think that you don't really want to go for very heavy release chart, like no to jamish, but I mean that might just be me. In general, I find it more like if you actually want proper warm-up to just play dense stuff that goes a little bit faster than what you're gonna be playing afterwards. And I imagine this map might not be as fast, but it looks, I mean, I will imagine it's pretty dense, to be honest.
Yeah, I could imagine that. Though there is something interesting about warm-ups where, you know, there are certain things that you are trying to achieve when you're warming up for matches or just warming up to play in general, because from my experience, sometimes when I warm up, I need to make sure that I'm training my fingers to not tense up and not to make sure I'm not forcing myself to you know, go as fast as I can. And in the case of something like this, or warming up to get that sort of finger feeling, I guess, where I'm not forcing myself, long note charts and stuff and easier maps can really help out. So it can be useful, but a lot of people do seem to prefer going with fast, dense rice picks to help warm their fingers up and get them going.
Okay, so here we are into the map already. Seems like Chile is holding a pretty strong lead here. I mean, Potassium, we know that he's mostly on the team due to like SV tech player, but this is probably a bit too hard for him to keep up with. You can see his accuracy is just dropping a lot, and his HP bar is pretty much reduced to 0. So no big surprise over there. Gonzalo though, holding really strong on this with 99%. Here we are, a little bit of Jax here. We can see now the new addition here on the flashlight mod. We can see a little bit clearer what is going on the screen. So we can at least see the judgments. It's a bit of a thing if you cannot see how... Oh my god, look at those Jax. Those mini Jax Potassium just already gave up.
Yeah. I actually... Are these Australian players flashlight mains, or are they just doing it for the fun of it?
actually see now. But yeah, as we were expecting, this map is pretty dense. I won't say it is. No, there's the flashlight color, but I will say that this might be slightly harder than what we're gonna see on this map pool. Like, I will leave this as finals tier. It seems a bit too hard for semis. So, besides the score difference here, besides the fact that Potassium is probably not one of the main players of the team, he's like going to swap in for maps like Burned Rice. The difference that we're seeing here between the players might not be as big during the actual map pool.
Yeah, but something to note about that is that even though that map was noticeably, or at least a bit harder than the semifinals maps we're seeing, it is a lot closer to the than it is to any of their other warm-ups were to whatever round they were playing in. Like, take the Chilean warm-up for quarterfinals, it was that same level, but you know, they were preparing for quarterfinals instead. So now that we're getting up to these higher tiers, that kind of warm-up will start to reflect more and more of what might end up happening in the match. And even though it is a bit harder, it should definitely be something to look out for on those BMS dense chord stream style maps that we'll see in this match.
Nice command over there by Mango. 1 MP start, but that's not that big of an issue. We should be getting started then quite soon with the second warm-up here, Rex Extensa, another BMS chart. And here we are, no flashlights this time around. You're gonna see the full screen of everything. So far this looks a little bit more doable than what we saw on the previous map. More into speed rather than just density and chord streaming. Pretty intense pattern though, but
patterns are really awkward to hit, but also really awkward to read in general. They're really scattered as patterns, and like they don't have a lot of the connected notes, I guess, if you want to call them that, like where it transitions
like
from
bracketing.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think what I'm more trying to get at is that a lot of the notes, you don't see it go from column 2 to column 3 a whole lot, especially on those faster streams sometimes, though we are getting into more patterns that would be defined in that way, I suppose.
Well, here into this section is looking a bit more tricky, mixing up with the snaps, pretty technical overall, and everyone on pretty much both sides, besides Sankansuki, is struggling quite a bit on this. Doesn't look necessarily as hard to read, but it's pretty demanding, I will say. The stairs there are pretty tricky to get the pattern right.
Yeah, Sankansuki actually destroying this map right now, still holding above 96%, the only player in the room with an S rank.
Okay, this is starting to get a bit mad here.
And as is normal with maps you'd see from the BMS, or from BMS, it slowly starts to get harder over time and has a lot of patterns that just are not friendly at all, especially when they come in bursts. They're just not fun to play.
Well, the fact that it's also pretty repetitive and it's pretty stamina draining, I think this map it's gonna hit the stamina for these two teams. Thankfully, because it's a warm-up, it's not gonna be that big of an issue. Now they get a little bit of a break with the rolls and the picks and whatnot, but pretty stamina demanding, I will say, this pick overall.
Yeah,
in general,
no one actually ending with an S rank, though. Sankansuki just barely missing it, having safely the highest score in the room. Definitely something to watch out for these semifinals picks. Obviously, like we've said, these semifinal picks are a bit easier than these two warm-ups have been showing.
So now for the rolls here, we're gonna see Scallon running at 73 versus a 3 from Evius, so that means Australia's gonna ban first. Pretty low roll. Not too sure what to expect here by Australia, because I feel they shouldn't ban an SV map against Chile. They might be the better chance they have. But again, I don't know how much they prepared, and usually if you don't prepare the SV picks, no matter how much of an underdog you are, you're not gonna win it. I mean, it's pretty easy to fail the map. Like, Burn Rise is legit very hard to pass.
Yeah, I think in Australia's position, they are, I consider them the weaker team, where they are in a harder position to come out of. And whenever you're weaker than the opposing team, or feel like you're weaker than the opposing team, you usually don't want to ban stuff like SVs, because, you know, as long as you practice them, there's a good chance that you're going to at least be able to put up a fight on them. But when it comes to things like long notes and chord streaming and just Rice in general, those things are really hard to just, you know, take points on if the opposing team is noticeably stronger than you.
Oh man, Burn Rise being the ban here is kind of we were saying, as much as you will probably want to pick that map against a team that's better than you, at least physically, if it's something that you didn't prepare, then you can't really afford to pick it anyway. So what is Chile going to ban here is also a pretty big question mark, I'll say. I'm not so sure. Maybe they go for TS Love? Something that is kind of hard. Maybe something they will potentially fail at one point. BBB. That's gonna be White Forces instead. Okay, so pretty much the pure long note releases map. Which makes sense, I'll say. Chile isn't as strong when it comes to long notes. They're mostly BMS-ish players. So banning against Australia with Sankansuki and Evius. Actually it was Kites. Yeah, Kites is the LM player. I guess it makes sense. They're going straight for the likeness, brightness. Pretty dense core streaming map over here. So they're gonna try to capitalize over that with a pretty short map here. Really dense 190 BPM here.
Yeah, this is an expected pick, I think, given how the warm-ups went, both of them being pretty dense chord streaming files and bursty files. Going with something like the lightness brightness, I don't see Australia being capable of taking the point on here. Sankansuki is obviously very strong at this kind of stuff, but their second player, and looking like it's going to be Evios, I don't think is strong enough to help Australia take this point from Chile.
We'll have to wait and see. This is Chile's pick, so if Australia loses it, it won't be as much of an issue for them if they can just win their own picks. But that's gonna be a difficult thing against Chile overall. So have to wait and see. I wouldn't be surprised if we see things like, kind of want to say Crystallize, but Crystallize might be on the risky side as well for Australia. But stuff like, I think it was, yeah, Towards the Horizon could be a pick that they can make if they are trying to target Chile's weaknesses, which will be more tech LN maps in general.
Yeah, I think Australia's strategy is going to have to revolve around looking for mistakes on the side of Chile as opposed to simply outplaying them, which would mean that they're going to want to target the weaknesses, like you said, which would be in long notes and possibly also in SV and techie type maps. But here we go into the first map out of a possible 11 for this first match in the semifinals.
Here we go, straight from the intro, we see Sankansuki having a bit of a tricky start there with accuracy, but recovering quite well. It's gonna be quite tied up until we see the dense streams taking part here. Evios finding the first drop on one of these long notes.
Yeah, the Australians not holding on too well in comparison to the Chileans. Evios now dropping below, or right at the low 98s, whereas both of the Chilean players still holding above 99%. Scotland still holding above 99.7.
Scaling is just outright destroying this chart. Like, if it's not a big issue, everyone else is struggling to even maintain into the 99s. Though Evie is a little bit behind with 98. Score gap is pretty large in favor of Chile as it is right now.
Yeah, holding on to a 70,000 point lead with such a short map that isn't a whole lot, but we're going into the last quarter of the map, and making up 70,000 points in this ending stream would be very difficult for Australia. It would require a lot of breaks on the side of Chile.
Especially considering how well Scalim is doing on this, I don't see him breaking anytime soon. Sure, this last section could be a bit of an issue for him. This bracketing might just be it, but he's just double S-ing this. Like, he got it right there, a couple, 1 or 2 200, but still, the madman, he's pulling such a great performance on this. He's gonna get the FC, isn't it? And he does. What a play there by Scalim. That's a 9,200 play, 986.
That's pretty insane. So, like I expected, Chile was capable of holding back and holding on to a very strong performance on this first map, but Australia is going to have to fire back with something that'll hopefully be less comfortable for the Chilean players.
Score is now 1-0 in favor of the South Americans. So Australia will have to think carefully here. They don't want to start with the left foot. They want to go straight probably into a long no pick, I will imagine. It's going to be just Sakura. So going straight into the late stream. So we're going to see very, very fast patterns here. Maybe they will try to outspeed Chile here. And I wouldn't be surprised if the tactic sort of works, considering that on the second warm-up, which was more into speed, Scalim and Gonzalo had some difficulties pulling out great performances on it. But again, Sankansuki will have to himself make up for the difference that Evios will likely have compared to Scalim and Gonzalo. So it's a risky pick. I'll imagine it could work, but yeah, I feel maybe Longness was a better choice.
I don't know. Well, I think we'll have to really see how Evios handles this map, because the second warm-up that was played focused pretty similarly to sort of delay type 7Q play styles, and Sankansuki destroyed that map in comparison to the Chilean players. We'll have to see if that's enough to carry Australia to their first point in the match, or if it's not going to be enough, or if Evios just is going to be able to hold his own weight and support the team in getting that first point.
Let's see if Australia can actually pull it out. I'm not so sure if there is a fail potential on this map. I don't exactly recall the ending being particularly hard to recover from, considering it's HP7.
Yeah, HP7 should allow the players to not take too much of a hit during the really abrasive parts, but it could still be a problem if something really bad happens, or if a rush starts happening.
Okay, here we go. Let's see if the pick actually works for Australia. It's definitely on the niche side, I will say. It's a very, very specific choice here. So if they can pull it out, it will be good for them. But they won't have as many picks like this in the future. And we see already everyone dropping their combos but Sankansuki, which is just holding incredibly strong accuracy here with 99.34. And he's actually single-handedly carrying Australia into the lead.
Yeah, I mean, he's holding 2% above both of the Chilean players, but Evios holding 4% behind both of them as well. even with that, the lead in the Chileans' favor is very small. Another one of those, the next one of those delay streams happening could push the lead into Australia's hand, but with that miss from Sankansuki, that is not going to be good for them. This
Not
section
so
might be what they're looking for, though.
Definitely they're looking for doing well on this section. Evie starts with a miss, but Gonzalo as well traces off. I just feel that it depends how much of a difference Hanken can make on the last delay here, the last delay stream. But he's dropping constantly now, so Chile is edging out quite a lot actually, 40,000 points.
What's funny is I think I've seen Sankansuki miss twice, and both times were in between like the delay streams. So he's been comboing through the really difficult dense sections, but hasn't been getting through the chord streaming as well as he probably should be.
And this is the last chance for Australia to recover. Evius keeps finding misses, but it's not the same for Chile. Gonzalo and Scalim now starting to drop, but Skankan just doesn't have enough time to recover from this.
Yeah, the lead just seems like it's too big in favor of Chile for anything to happen regarding the score lead.
Accuracy-wise, they are pretty similar now. 98.5 for Sankan and 98 for both of the Chileans. So accuracy-wise, Chile takes the advantage. Besides the great performance here by Sankansuki, it's a point for the South Americans once more.
Yeah, and that is a pretty big break point because Australia losing their first pick means that they're only going to be moving down to picks that they're less comfortable with than this, and that is not going to fare well for the Australian team since they didn't perform as well as they needed to in order to take a point from Chile here.
I can read but I can't press. That's exactly what this map is about. It doesn't look as hard to read compared to some of the stuff that we're gonna see. Probably on this matchup actually. But it's just the physical abilities you need to hit it well. It's very, very high. We're gonna see Flower Flag instantly now.
That's an interesting choice, considering this is kind of like an LN map, kind of consistency based. I can understand it a little bit, though. They're kind of veering from what they were doing in their first choice, just going for straight chord streaming. I'm interested to see whether it's just that Scalim and Gonzalo are just more comfortable on this than anything else besides the lightness, brightness in the pool, or if they just don't feel like playing it, or I'm a little bit confused, I guess, about this choice.
Well, I'll say it's fair to say that maybe Chile just picked the lightness, brightness because how good Scalim is on it. Like, that score was pretty mental. And probably they were just banking on that thing to carry the Chileans further. And to be fair, the map was getting sort of specific, so the lightness, brightness has a pretty clear structure of dense chord stream, which is something that Scalim is pretty good at. But then you have things like BBB, which is more bursty, more into mini jacks, lighter color streams overall. So trying to avoid that isn't as unreasonable, I feel. And kind of the same happened with the map we just saw, the delayed stream as well. They're getting a little bit specific, so it's not that big of a surprise to see teams picking different things, not just rice, because of how specific the maps are getting into this stage. Regardless, we're gonna see if the pick works out here. Kites is well known for being the second long no player of Australia after Sankansuki, so he is jumping into this one. It's not that big of a surprise.
Seems to be starting off somewhat well for the Australians. However, we haven't really gotten into the denser LN patterns that will really start to mess up the players.
This is also one of the longer maps of the pool, so mental stamina, or just like mental consistency, being able to keep up with a map for such a long time. Not because it's particularly physically demanding, it's just you have to be paying attention for a pretty long time.
Yeah, and I think even things being less physically demanding can be more mentally stamina draining. If you start not paying attention to the map, you'll miss more and then try to focus too much, which transitioning between not focusing and having too much focus can put a huge strain on your consistency, your mental stamina, and just how you're playing in general.
I always like the term of mental stamina. It sounds like actually insane stamina, but it's actually just sickly stamina, if that makes sense. I don't know. Oh, Sangazuki ghosting over there. Not good for him. Actually, Chile is doing pretty well on this one. Not like insane tier level. They're doing alright. 98% are pretty good for this stage, I'm not gonna lie. But considering what we saw from Scalim on the previous map, it's a bit of a surprise that on their own pick, they are not holding any player on the 99s. Something to take note though, I mean, if Chile ends up winning the match, whoever faces them, be that Italy or the Philippines, they'll probably have to be careful with the lightness brightness. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a ban from of that map, considering how good Scaling is on it, if they manage to bypass Australia here, which is looking to be the case actually. Just winning 2-0 with 30,000 points difference here, half of the map still remaining. A lot of drops though now on the Chilean side. I might just switch the lead back a little bit on the left side. Not that much though.
Definitely some amount of score lead changing. However, I don't think it's going to switch over to the Australian side just off of that chorus. Now, you mentioning that we might see a delightness brightness ban from whoever, if Chile moves on, of course, from the team that faces them, just because of how strong their performance was. But that would also require the opposing team to risk leaving Burnt Rice open, which I don't think any to do at the moment. It's just such a risky pick to leave open, and it's so difficult that a lot of teams may not have even put practice into it. So it's an awkward situation to have where you have to balance out whether you want to leave a pick you didn't practice open or run the chance that Chile also didn't practice it.
Now jumping into the ending of the beat map here, the lead has gone a little bit bigger in favor of Chile here. 50,000 points in their favor. And it's mostly just 1% accuracy difference here between Kites and Gonzalo, which are the two weaker players on each side. But Gonzalo is making up for it. He's missing a lot on the section, but so does Kites and actually everyone in the room here. So there really isn't much more potential for the Australian team to recover here. Kites, in fact, actually pretty low HP bar as well, really close to fail the map at the very ending there.
But it does look like Chile's pick is going to work out for them this time around. And we're going back to Australia's pick, and I don't really know what to expect. I mean, they've gotten beaten on long notes, they got beaten on the delay streams, and they've gotten beaten on chord streams. At this point, really, if you're in Australia's position, you almost have to go for the most risky thing possible, just hoping that your opponents mess up more.
I was about to make that call. Didn't want to interrupt you there, but BBB was the pick. I think it was always the pick after seeing, as you were saying, like just being beat on pretty much everything. BBB is just that specific map that might bring Australia what it needs to take a point.
Yeah, I mean, when you have bursty, technical, mini-jack infested files like this, these are the kinds of maps that are prone to players just dropping randomly, as even though it's not really random, it's more like you know what's happening, but your fingers just can't listen to you just because of how physically straining it can be to keep up a technical performance for as long as these maps last.
Oh, we're seeing the fancy stars back again. Yay. Alright, this is a best of 11 matchup. That's right, I almost forgot about that. So Chile still needs to win 3 more maps, so it's gonna be interesting to see there.
Yeah, there's definitely still time for Australia to get their feet on the ground. Hopefully, put themselves in the right place to get points and just, give themselves a chance against Chile.
You hear that triple time there? Man, my ears. This is a map that gets very fast though. That's why the client is glitching out a little bit there. 480 BPM is as fast as this map goes. So it's gonna be a pretty heavy thing for Australia. They're trying to go for all these speed picks of the map, going for the delay stream first and now into BBB, more into the technical side of things, but again, really fast regardless. We see Kite's actually staying on this room, besides Ebia's playing on the late stream chart.
Doesn't seem like Kites is handling the court streams as well as he might like to. And both of the Chilean players holding better accuracies for the time being than both of the Australian players right now. So I'd assume the Australian players are just, banking on the fact that as the section Chile is going to be missing more and more.
Well, it sort of started to happen there on this sort of slow jammish section. Gonzalo is dropping a big amount of accuracy and a lot of combo, but the difference is just insanely high now. Right now it's like 150,000. Not even Sangansuki is holding strong enough here to beat any of the Chileans, but now we're speeding things up here. This is basically the last chance for Australia to make up for such a huge difference, but I don't think they have enough time regardless of what happens here. There it is. Huge amount of drops just before the last lens, but it's not gonna be enough at all for Australia. This is a win once again for Chile. 4-0 on the lead.
Yeah, it's looking pretty tough for Australia to take any points here. Obviously, we haven't seen anything in the way of SVs or things like that, so they might still stand a chance on something of that nature. However, it is still very risky to go with something like that, especially if you don't know whether the other team has practiced them at all.
Well, they will have to go for TS Love or Crystallize. I think they are the only real chances for Australia left.
So Chile, reading your mind there, picking TS Love, saying to the Australians, we can take this. That's a pretty bold move right away. For the same reasons that we've said, it's kind of risky in general to go with stuff like this, especially if you don't know if the other team practiced. And in the case of Chile, I feel like there were other safer picks that they could have gone for.
Okay, we're gonna see the first SB action here between these two teams. Not so sure what to expect here, honestly. I mean, I will imagine Chile is gonna perform well on this. It's their own pick. And Australia will have to pull out a pretty great performance overall, I feel. Kites will need to step up his game a little bit if they want to take this point. Let's see now here. about to start. Okay, Sangatsuki's leaving here, being replaced with Evius. So Kite's Evius is going to be the lineup here for Australia, it seems.
Pretty interesting switch out, though. I guess Sankansuki doesn't really like playing SVs or isn't as prepared as Evius or Kites might be for something like this.
Alright, so here we are. TS Love is the pick. Jump difficulty. If I remember correctly, this is Jakat's speed map.
Let me check. Yes, it is. So the SVs
I mean,
are...
the background says it, right?
Oh, so it does. But with some really, I guess, physically demanding patterns in the mini jacks to, 5-note chords, with the SVs thrown in there can really be detrimental to a player's performance if they aren't really capable of reading the 5-note chords and mini jacks as well as the SVs on top of them. Obviously, I think these players are more than capable of it, but one slip up can cause your reading to just go down the drain, and that is not very good in a setting like this.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard beat map to be good at consistently due to the amount of mini jacks that it has and just the SVs. Like, you have to not sort of memorize, but at least remember a little bit the song so you can follow it up a little bit better. And with the mini jacks, you kind of can get lost into the map at one point and just rush a lot on one of the SVs. Not looking to be the case that much for Chile. They are performing quite well on this. Probably one of the hardest maps to pull, actually. 98% for both of the Chileans. 95 for Kites, and actually just dropping behind the 95 there on the last releases. So we see double A for the Australians and double S for the Chileans. And they are now a match point, and Australia has to pick.
Yeah, and similar to the last two picks that Australia has made, it's almost like they have very little to go off of here. There's another risky pick left in the pool, which is Crystallized, at least, which has some pretty hard to read SVs and LNs and whatnot, which might throw off the Chilean players, but I don't know if that would be enough to give Australia a chance, since it will probably also be problematic for them.
Maybe show Fractal. More of an Imbus choice, trying to somehow pull out the win against Chile. At this point, I wouldn't be 100%. Okay, there goes. Show for Fractal it is. I wouldn't be too surprised if Australia might just play for the funsies here. Gonna see Potassium joining here with Sankatsuki. Okay, so right now we should be about to start here with Potassium and his flashlight. Perhaps Australia ends up taking this one in a bit of a surprise turn of events here, but with Potassium on the room and a map that is not SB, I will imagine they're just trying to like give Potassium some screen time on stream and pretty much playing for the fun.
Yeah, not to mention that this is one of the shortest maps in the pool. I mean, mistakes are everything here, and it's possible that Australia is playing for the fun, and it's also possible that they are just looking for this short map to bank on mistakes that Chile makes, but it's already clear that Potassium's not really comfortable with this map dropping below the 90% pretty quickly, being the only player not above 98 right now.
He's trying to recover slowly, but again, Gonzalo is pulling out a great performance on this one regardless, so Chile is looking pretty strong for the next match. If they end up winning this map, they're going to be facing Italy or the Philippines, whoever wins that match tomorrow. It will technically still be today, but for me it will be tomorrow. Into this amber section, a lot of drops, everyone actually missing. But the accuracies from the Chileans are just way above Australia. 98.74 is the highlight here. Oh, Gonzalo just completely dropped it over there. 1 point of accuracy being dropped completely. But it's not gonna matter too much.
Yeah, Sangatsuki also had that same accuracy drop on top of Potassium F, still not even managing to break the A rank threshold. But like you said, that is going to be the 6th point for Chile, bringing them the victory in this match, 6-0.
And there we have it, Scalim and Gonzalo, a team with only 2 players, reaching the top 8 actually. Yeah, they are now top 8 of the tournament. Australia will get knocked out of the tournament because they just lost the match in the losers bracket. So a little bit of an unfortunate situation for them. They had a pretty strong opponent here, Chile, but even with that, I will still say Australia was probably the weaker team remaining on the tournament. So they made a pretty good run this year.
Yeah, and something else to note, Chile now only needs to win 1 more match and they will be make it to finals with only 2 players on their roster if they manage to beat their opponent in the next match, which will be either Italy or Philippines, like you have said. So they're hoping to make it to finals off of one of the very few teams that only had 2 players. I think there were only like 2 or 3 teams that only had 2 players. Definitely impressive that these 2 are able to bring their team so far.
Alright, so it's actually pretty interesting though to say if Philippines beats Italy on the matches that we're gonna see after the break, then we will have a matchup between 2 teams who only have 2 players. That will be pretty fun. Because it will be Arquin Olivares and Cielo Day versus Gonzalo and Scalim.
Yeah, that is really interesting. The match dynamics that we've been seeing between Chile and their opponents and Philippines and their opponents will be kind of thrown out the window almost, since both teams are going to be able to predict what the players on the other teams are going to be, since they're going to be, the same 2 players for every single map. Okay, so we're gonna have the next match now in about 10 minutes. It's gonna be the United States versus Japan. Pretty cool one, actually. Yeah. I'm pretty excited for this. Yet another match that is a rematch from group stage, like we've already said before. Japan being the only low-seeded team to make it out of groups, I believe.
No, actually, Japan was high-seeded. I mean, they were second seed. The only 2 teams who made it out of group stage were Germany and Argentina.
Oh, okay. I must have mixed that up then. Still, Japan showing very strong performances, bringing teams to tiebreaker in 2 separate rounds. Beat those rounds being round of 16 and quarterfinals. So perhaps trying to put up enough of a fight to maybe bring this match to tiebreaker or just to win it outright. But they do have a strong opponent against them that they have already lost to in this same tournament.
In any case, we're probably gonna have a little bit of a break here with some music, I'll imagine. We have 10 minutes before the match starts, and we have some things to sort out with the commentary team. We still have to check out if we're gonna have a Potassium joining us potentially. So, in any case, there's still 10 minutes of downtime, and we're gonna fill it with music. So, hope you all enjoy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back once again here now, with only a couple of minutes remaining before the match. Probably the big one of the versus bracket, United States versus Japan. And once more, I'm Juan Crystal, joined with the Topster. At the end, we're gonna keep up with the same lineup as the previous one.
Yes, we are. And I do believe the required players, at least, are online. I do not know if all of the players are online, but we should be good to go with the warm-ups and the players in the room relatively soon. So no worries on that front.
Yeah, we should be alright. I believe Squishy logged in not so long ago, so he might be missing a little bit of warm-up. But other than that, they should be alright. I'll imagine that Squishy will be able to warm up just fine with these two maps. But again, Ausen and Quicklit for Japan being around the main 7 key players of the Japanese team. A little bit of a shame that they are missing some of the big names from previous World Cups like Intelizer or Snowwind. But Ausen and Quicklit had been performing very, very good. And like we said previously, this is a rematch from the match we saw on the group stage. United States took that victory 4-2 on their favor, but this time history might be just a little bit different. Maps are getting very harder. Ausen and Quicklit have been outperforming pretty much everyone they have faced. Double tiebreaker so far as well. We have played tiebreakers against both Chile and Indonesia, so definitely a pretty strong team. Outperforming like a lot of good teams. Like they were very close to take down Chile, they took down Indonesia, and honestly, they have been playing out of their minds overall. And if they can't keep that up, if the difficulty is still not high enough for them to struggle, they should be in a really good situation against the United States.
Yeah, and like, even though Japan did lose to the United States in the group stage, this is a completely separate match from that. The difficulty of the pools are so vastly different that the dynamics of the match themselves are going to be completely, out of the ordinary in comparison to what we would have seen before.
Definitely, I think the picks now are not going to be as safe as before. Though, when it comes to accuracy, these two teams are pretty evenly matched, so they weren't really safe picks either on the group stage, for example. But right now, where stuff is getting complicated overall, we're gonna have to see stellar performances from like Stupid Man on the United States side and from Ausen on the Japanese team. But again, I'll imagine these two teams are going to try to play on the strengths of the second player instead of going for the weaknesses of the other team. I feel that Japan will try to go for maps where Quicklit is solid at, and the United States will try to go for maps where Squishy is actually comfortable with. So it's going to be an interesting match. Perhaps the stars will not be able to shine as much, and by stars I mean the captains of each team, which are arguably the most consistent, solid players of each team. At least from what we saw on the previous matches. We see once again a pretty BMS-ish map here, at least for now, it looks like it. Squish is having a little bit of trouble though, keeping up with this. Really dense map overall though. Squishy is dropping below the 93% now. Besides Stupid Man, everyone is holding a lot of issues throughout this map. I'll say Quicklit is the one having the most trouble in the Japanese team here overall with 95, almost 96% accuracy here. And you can clearly see the Squishy is having some difficulties on this. I'll want to say that it's due to lack of warm-up a little bit, considering he logged in not so long ago. He might be missing a bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lack of warm-up is going to do something like this to a player, but I mean, there's also a bit of it being that this is really dense and that might be a little bit above Squishy's full capabilities, though. Given that he doesn't have any warm up, I can't be too sure about that.
Here we are. This is the end of the first warm-up. Quite short one, actually. And a difference of 60,000 points in favor, 65 actually, in favor of the Japanese team here. Stupid Mando with the best score, almost hitting the 900,000. And now the United States will go and pick something. Squishy seems to be being replaced here. I think we're having some client difficulties here, which should be sorted up soon, hopefully.
I mean, if this map is causing client issues, I'm a bit curious as to what this map might be, though that just might not even be correlating to anything weird with the map.
So apparently Squishy's warming up a little bit. It's gonna be taking out as a sub, which makes sense, honestly. I mean, if you want to warm up more specifically, maybe you can just go on single player mode and play your owns. So Squishy being subbed out for this one, it's not that big of a surprise, I will say.
Yeah, definitely not. I would honestly agree with that course of action. And plus it gives one of the other players on the US some chance to play in the match and also just, get warmed up in this environment on their own. Although we're already seeing an interesting background for this map.
Well, definitely looks like an interesting background, I'm not gonna lie. That's a player playing on keyboard and on the controller at the same time.
Looks
isn't it?
like it.
This is gonna be a US meme warm-up. A proper US meme warm-up.
I would assume so.
And we see that we're having some internet connection issues, it seems to be. Hopefully this is gonna be back in just a moment. I think clients are sinking in there, trying the best to catch up. I like how we have someone on chat calling the roles every single time. One time he's just gonna get both of them right, and I'm gonna probably just quit. 26 and 81 is the call here by Poof. Will be pretty neat if that happens. Actually, a double disconnection here seems. The Wero and Ausen having some troubles.
Yeah, definitely some weird internet or client issues or something going on right now. Good thing this is happening during the warm-ups and not during the actual match, where the results could either be compromised or no one would know what was going on, which neither one is really good. Although, this warm-up was pretty close.
It's actually the US taking it, yeah.
Yeah, only by 6,000 points.
All right, so yeah, we had a little bit of an issue here. The map was a bit too. I'm not really sure because I didn't really see the map, but the map had something that caused the client to have some issues. So it's not that we intentionally skipped it; it's just that it happened to be that way. In any case, that's it for the warm-ups, and we're gonna see the roles now for the two captains. And I'll tell you, okay, that's a 26. That was pretty. That's 21. That's a pretty close. Was that the role that she was calling or he was calling on the chat? Anyways, Tagam gets the 67 here, so he wins the map here. I'm not sure what I'm saying anymore. He wins the role here with the 67, so that means Japan is gonna ban first. Let's see what they have on the locker.
I'd assume Japan's gonna go straight for the burnt rice ban. I mean, it's kind of what I expect from first team to ban will get burnt rice out of the way unless they put a lot of practice into it.
In all honesty, if they don't ban burnt rice, it will be such a good position for the US, because I'll imagine Squishy is not gonna be playing on that map. It's most likely gonna be the Wero and Stupid-Man. So it will give even more time for Squishy to warm up and get into a proper state better or faster.
Yeah, I mean, though that's either ban it or just doesn't pick it outright.
Oh, Flower Flag is the ban here. That's a big surprise. I'll imagine the US will ban that.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Burnt rice or maybe an LN pick coming out as though. If they end up banning an LN pick, that would mean that burnt rice is completely open, and I'd be worried if I was the US at this point, because Japan just feels very confident in keeping that open. Or at least more confident in keeping it open than they do with Flower Flag, which for a lot of teams would be much less risky than burnt rice.
Man. I will be so nervous though at this point as you say that. If Japan doesn't ban burnt rice, that can only mean they have played it, they have prepared it. The question is, how much did they? Is the US team still gonna be able to pull that one out, or they will maybe try and ban it now? The mind games here are starting to take place. We're gonna see white forces here being the ban, and the first pick for the US, I would imagine, I can only guess it's gonna be burnt rice. Not so sure what you think about. Hypernova, okay. Avoiding the SVs right away and going probably for one of the, I don't want to say easier maps of the pool. I'm not so sure what we want to call an easy map on this map pool, to be fair. But more of a mixed choice, I'll say.
Yeah, when you get to maps this difficult, it's hard to call anything easier in the pool. Because everything's just brutal.
You see Squishy here, getting back into the room, replacing the Wero. Hopefully in order to show a good performance. And we see now the lineups. Stupid-Man and Squishy on the US against Ausen and Quick4 for Japan. And this is a match we're kind of used to see already, not only on 7 key but on 4 key, for example. We've seen this matchup happening a couple of times as well, and I don't think Japan has ever beaten the United States in that particular tournament.
But here we go into the first pick, Hypernova. United States hoping to be stronger in terms of just all around, or possibly trying to bank on Squishy not being quite as warmed up as he might want to be, going with something a bit easier or less physically demanding, something that Squishy would be able to keep up with much better than most other maps in this pool.
Well, he's doing quite alright so far, and the United States is on the lead. This match is looking already way closer than what we saw on Australia versus Chile.
Ausen with the first drop, Squishy with the drop right after it, though, gonna even things out a little bit, though. US does have a small lead, but that drop might give Japan a chance, but it seems like the lead is just growing in favor of the US.
Oh man, Ausen is not being able to keep up with this. Yeah, as you said. The score gap is very, very minimal though. 11,000 points. And I think Stupid-Man found a miss, and that's probably the reason why Japan is now toe to toe, like literally.
Yeah, it looks like the lead is actually shifting a little bit towards Japan, but with the accuracy lead in favor of the US, it won't be quite as much as they might want going into this last third of the map.
It's going to be such a close call on this one. There's still a third of the map remaining, but the score difference is so minimal. Look at that. This last 10 score stream is not going to trip anyone up. Oh, Ausen and Stupid Man both missing on the last note of that stream, but Stupid Man now having difficulties on the long notes.
The lead is very small right now, but Ausen also having major issues on some of those long notes, going to give the lead straight back to the US, but Squishy also breaking, having been the player with the 400 combo, going to give a little bit of an advantage, but Stupid Man bringing it back up to the maximum combo.
It's going to come
missed
down to
by
the
Squishy.
Oh my goodness, it's so close. Ausen finds a couple of misses.
Lead stays in favor of the US going into the last burst. Squishy missing again as well, though. This is
Ausen
too close.
equalizes. This is so close. I don't even know what's gonna happen. Squishy missing right at the end.
Japan takes it.
Points of difference. What was that? That was just decided on the very last note. What just happened? Everyone just dropped the combo at the very ending. But the combo from Quickly 2300. That's just gonna single-handedly carry Japan here. Look at that. 956,000 points. What was that? That was the first breakpoint and a proper way to start this match.
Yeah, and Japan gonna hope to ride on this very close victory, but given how close this was, I wouldn't put it up past these two teams to get another one or two maps that are this close and just down to the wire, and I think breakpoints are gonna be pretty common here.
2,400 points. Actually, 2,425 points of difference. Literally nothing. Like, Stupid Man only actually less than a miss of difference. It was probably enough with just 2 or 3 200s. It was just not enough. But Japan now going straight for the lightness, brightness, and I can see Quickly outright destroying this beat map from start to finish.
Yeah, but I could, in the same way, I could also see Stupid Man doing fantastically on this chart. I think we're really gonna have to watch the matchup between Squishy and Ausen here to see how those two are able to handle this map.
That was such a close win. That was a clutch victory for Japan. No way to call that other way. And honestly, Japan is a team of tiebreakers. Have played every single match they played on the bracket stage was decided by a tiebreaker. Once in their favor,
granted,
once in
granted it's only 2 matches, but given how close that last map was, it could stretch to 3 here. Tiebreaker already seems like a pretty interesting possibility, assuming that the US is able to at least gain some footing on a breakpoint sometime in this match.
It's looking complicated for Squishy here, having some struggle on the very intro, accuracy-wise at least. So scores are flashing back and forth, but definitely in favor of Japan here, accuracy-wise.
Not by a whole lot. I mean, the difference is between Squishy and Quicklid right now, only 0.3%, and Ausen with a break right there, but Squishy following up shortly after with one as well. The accuracy's actually a bit in favor of the US for the time being.
Yeah, it's just Stupid Man edging that difference a little bit on his favor because of that 99.7. But the scores are jumping back and forth, and this is so close once again. It just comes down to whoever misses first, and that's Squishy. So the United States, just when he reaches the 400 combo cap, finds another drop. That's a big, good thing for the Japanese team here. They now need to probably only keep up with their combos. As long as they don't find any massive accuracy drops, they should be fine as long as they full combo the rest of the chart. But it's quite tricky on its own, honestly.
Lead seems to be pretty much stagnant, though the accuracy lead in favor of the US, even with Squishy's lower accuracy, seems to be at least helping the US stay in range. And with this ending coming up, I think Ausen has a major possibility of breaking in these denser streams, but as does Squishy, as we already see him breaking, but so does Ausen.
Oh, Quickly!
Also breaking, though the lead...
That could be the gate.
Stretching in the favor of Japan for the time being, but
Japan is just collapsing. They're collapsing on this ending.
It's gonna be really close again.
Down to the wire once again, but I don't think they have enough time. Look at that! Less than 1,000 points of difference!
Oh my god, what is happening?
What is this match? 734 points. That's even less than last weekend, wasn't it? Jesus.
Okay, what is
Look
this
at the score from
match?
Stupid Man, though.
What is 7 200s? I wasn't doing fantastically in terms of accuracy as well, just dropping a lot more combo than that Stupid Man. Oh, that was the difference.
That was
1
a
or 2
devastating
200s there. Ooh.
That was a devastating defeat for the United States, I'm not gonna lie. Morale are probably abysmal at this point for the Americans. And they'll have to work really hard to take it back. They need to win a point just now. Samayoi no Mei is gonna be it. This is already a fantastic match, and going straight for Imbus, more LNs now for the United States, which is a bit of a surprise in my opinion. Stupid Man isn't known for his long no capabilities, but I'm not so sure. Maybe they're just trying to target Japan's weaknesses, considering how strong Quickly has been through the previous Rice picks, even on the quarterfinals as well. Trying to target now Ausen here. I mean, Ausen should do better on long notes, but again, it mostly comes down to him if he can perform well. But man, what has been this match so far? It's been incredibly close. Even with such amount of misses from the Japanese team at the very ending, they probably just needed like one more second of map and they had it.
Yeah. Is definitely not out of this right now, especially if this pick goes well for them. I think they're going to pretty good spot. Need break points to
lagging a little bit there, but I definitely get what you mean on it. Like, if this works out for the United States, they will have an open gate to go for more long note picks in the future, and there's still quite a lot of them remaining. They will still need to win a breakpoint though, because Japan won their own on the first selection by the United States. And here, the United States is leading by quite a big difference here. Ausen having surprisingly low accuracy onto this with 95, low 95 actually. Squishy though, finding one of the breaks there on the spacebar. A lot of them actually.
Yeah, those 2 breaks are actually going to give Japan a chance to lower that lead that the US has. However, this inverse, both players on the US making it through, and both players on Japan dropping there.
Ausen is just not reading it at all. Everyone drops on the last inverse, so that will be pretty good for the United States if they can just keep this up for a little bit longer. They should have this point. And the inverse, Ausen is not being able to keep up with the inverse at all. Look at that. He's dropped a lot of accuracy and a lot of comm on every single one of them. And I don't even know if he's going to reach the S threshold. It's not looking like it. Pretty good pick here by the United States. Big margin of difference. Pretty good score actually for the Stupid Man as well here. Not the best one of the room though. Quickly, just barely making that difference. 2,000 points. But again, the main thing here was between Squishy and Ausen. Ausen with a 94.54, definitely having a lot of issues with this more long-oriented patterns. And instantly Japan going for Yok Sakura. So they are, I mean, both teams seem pretty prepared. They're picking quite fast onto this. So I don't know, Top, going for the late stream here might be a little bit of a risky choice. I'm not so sure how well will Stupid Man do on this, or how much Squishy can keep up with it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think the theme of this match so far has been risky picks being every pick. I mean, we've already seen 2 of the maps within a margin of 3,000 points, and one of them having been in a margin of 1,000 points. at this point, it's hard to determine whether something is a safe pick or if just one drop is going to mean everything in the match. I mean, Squishy already finding a drop here, not even hitting the delay streams yet. But I think once they start, we'll get a
Oh yeah,
job.
there it is. Which is not being able to keep up with the combo all that well, but now he seems to be recovering, so accuracy-wise the US is taking the lead due to quickly rushes at the very intro, and Ausen, now with some combo drops, will give the US a little bit of a chance to extend that lead in the favor. And to be fair, someone is saying it on the chat, and I kind of agree, every single pick seems risky between these two teams. They are so close to each other. The score gap here is so minimal as well. With 2 more delayed streams remaining onto this map, everything can happen. It's just a matter of who gets them better. We see a break though there for Ausen and Quickly. That's just gonna help the United States, but Squishy equalizing with a break on its own. 2 of them in a row, not being able to get back into the map, and he's dropping quite a lot. Japan isn't, but Quickly just afterwards, just before the end of the delay streams, finds another one. But they are fighting for it. They take the lead back, and Squishy constantly dropping into the score streams. It's not gonna help. Japan is trying their best, and they are pulling it off. One more delay stream is the last thing, and it will be the decider factor. But Squishy's dropping a bit too much. I don't think they'll have enough time. Here we go, last delay streams. Here is Squishy, and actually Stupid Man as well, the only full combo remaining, makes himself a mistake. Same goes for the Japanese team, but they're not making it. I think Japan just has this without many issues. A lot of misses at the end, but it's not gonna matter too much as the United States is not being able to get back into the beat map. Japan will take this unless something crazy happens. Ausen is actually dropping a lot. Same for Quickly. It's gonna get quite close, but 30,000 points is still a victory for Japan. And rightfully so there, with only 14 misses and 11 on the side for Japan. And 28 for Squishy, not quite up there compared to the Japanese player. Very good score though by the United States captain, Stupid Man. 3-1 now in favor of the Asians.
With that pick out of the way, we don't have too much in the way of Rice. Well, I mean, we have plenty of Rice picks left. However, the straight-up speed picks, I think, are all gone. Besides vv240312579, if I'm not mistaken. Ooh,
You're correct.
I like this pick. I like this pick at the same time as I don't like it.
I think this is the game decider. Yeah, this is definitely the game decider pick. If the US cannot win this one, I'll say it's game over. So yeah, the reason why I feel this is such an important map, because if the US cannot win this one, they won't have enough picks to break through Japan. 4-1 is a big lead and they can't really come back from it. Japan after this likely going for BBB. They will have the match point security just after that, and one minor mistake will be game over for the United States. So they really need to win this.
I mean, not only that, but that would mean that US would have to take 2 breakpoints off of Japan to have any chance of coming back in the match.
And we see actually the player swap here, the Where is joining instead of Squishy, which is something, it's sort of a theme we have been seeing throughout the whole SV picks made by the United States. Stupid Man having some sort of accuracy drop there, but sort of the same thing is happening for Quickly and Ausen. They are not as prepared, they're dropping a lot of combo, and so far this looks to be a pretty good pick for the United States.
Yeah, already 30,000 point lead for the US with a lot of combo breaks on the side of Japan and no combo breaks yet for the United States.
Into the mini jacks here. Nobody is dropping on the United States. Japanese team is sort of recovering, but the accuracies are still very low in comparison. Stupid Man is holding the combo, but his accuracy isn't the best. And the Where now finds a bit of a break, actually a couple of them. He's struggling a lot of the section. Those accuracies are going to be a little closer, but the score gap is pretty large as it is right now. With Ausen right on the 94s, he's going to fight a lot to recover from this. We go into the mine block section. Stupid Man finds a couple of misses, and it's not good for them because Japan is recovering slowly but surely. They will pull out a fight if the US keeps dropping accuracy and missing, and there it is, another miss by Stupid Man. And now the Wero as well, not looking good for the United States on this position. Still have a decent lead on its own, but half of the map is still remaining. And besides that, Ausen now back into the S threshold here with a 95%. Getting really close. Ausen now starting to drop again on one of the scroll velocity changes, and it's no surprise. Quickly as well, that's a big drop in favor of the US. But again, scores is getting closer and closer, 40,000 points of difference. The Wero is still missing. And again, this map can very well go down to the wire. If they can nail the last SBs, which are pretty similar to what we saw in the previous Ki, they should be alright, but again, they are not the hardest SBs out there, so Japan could also take advantage out of it, and they surely will. Scores are still a bit too far away with only a quarter of distance. Quarter of the song still remain. But again, now into more dense jacks here. The Wero finds a couple of misses, but the Japanese team is just rampaging through it. Quickly it finds another mistake. So it's not good for the Japanese team. I think this is already sort of decided, but we don't really know. The map still has a couple of SBs remaining, but I think the lead is established. Stupid Man and the Wero will pull that one out with a pretty good lead there. Good pick once again, but before that we were pretty nervous to see how much the Japanese team had prepared this one. They prepared enough, but not enough to beat the United States. I feel they will have beaten most of the teams on this one. That's gonna be it. This is a win for the United States by actually 50,000 points of difference.
Yep, so the USA keeping themselves in the match with that pick, but still in a position where they do need to take a break point from Japan in order to, you know, have any chance in this match. And Japan going really quickly into TS Love. Both of these teams have a game plan, I think, for after each pick. I mean, we haven't seen much of a break at all between any of the maps. Two teams just want to get to the next maps as soon as possible.
Let's go.
Okay, so here we go, TS Love. This is a pretty... I mean, honestly, I think this is a good pick for Japan. Considering that Squishy... I mean, Squishy didn't have enough time to warm up before I said, but I don't know if he actually prepared the map all as much. He got subbed in for the SB pick, which makes sense, but again, this is probably the most SB heavy map other than Burn Bright, so we're gonna see if he can actually go through the SBs that this map contains. But again, the score leads now on the favor of the US due to the misses from Squishy and Ausen. And Squishy's having a lot of issues with this mini jack. So does Ausen though on his own. Both players are dropping quite a lot, and this is pretty much a battle between Stupid Man and Quicklid. Stupid Man is winning that battle, but Ausen and Squishy are pretty close within each other. This is going to be a pretty crucial map, I will imagine. Quickly it finds a drop, so only one full combo remains, and it's in favor of the United States.
this is looking like it's favoring the United States, and though I think part of the reason the U.S. might have wanted to go with something like, or sorry, Japan wanted to go with something like this, is, like you said, noticing Squishy and possibly his lack of practice or lack of warm-up, but also anything to get the opposing team to just drop affect Squishy to a bit of a larger extent, perhaps just because of his lack of warm-up, though I'd assume he's at least warmed up enough now to work with it.
That's a huge win, though, for the United States. Like, besides everything, they got the break point they needed. Now the scores are equalized once again. And that score from Stupid Man, it's pretty mind-blowing, honestly. Though the 9 misses are going to hurt his score. 21-100 is a pretty good accuracy.
But with that, U.S. does take their first break point of the match. Might be a turning point in this match, but it also means that we're one step closer to what the possible tiebreaker that we've been sort of hinting at for a while.
Man, I really don't know who will win a tiebreaker between these two teams. I feel it will be very, very close too, because I'll imagine Austen and Squishy will have so many issues on the tiebreaker. So it will mostly be a Stupid Man versus Squiggly battle once more. It's gonna be towards the horizon here, the pick by the United States, straight into some Camellia action. As we were missing a little, I think we haven't seen any of this being picked on the previous match. Neither crystallized or towards the horizon.
No, neither one was picked nor banned in the previous match. So this is the first time we'll see either one of them played, though it is just the second map, or the second match of the round.
True. We'll see here. Some technical patterns, a little bit of Ellen releases featured on this map. Probably not really favoring the US in particular, but definitely hurting Austen in particular. And as you can see here, his accuracy is struggling quite a bit onto this 93%. As the map progresses, the United States will take a little bit of a lead here, but a pretty decent amount of misses as well from Squishy. Even Stupid Man as well, having some difficulties on that pattern transition. And the scores are going to get very, very close once more. Again, in hands of Quickledit here to decide the outcome of this match. Scores are once more very, very close within each other, but the United States seems to have established a little bit of a lead here as both players combo through these sections just fine. Quickledit is still rocking the full combo, but Squishy and Austen just straight in misses. 1, 2, 3 times now, with Squishy a little bit on the lead on that aspect, holding a better accuracy overall. But the matchup here we want to see Stupid Man and Quickledit, as both are really close within each other. But that's a break from Quickledit, the star player from Japan, finding the first mistake into this map, and that's no good news for the Asians. United States looking solid onto this with a third of the map remaining, but a big break there by the Stupid Man. Not gonna help all that much, but into this long nose section, Austen is starting to struggle. So does Squishy. So again, we're gonna see a battle between the two star players, Stupid Man and Quickledit, and Stupid Man drops first. So if Quickledit can just hold on to this one and Austen can recover a little bit, they might just have a chance. But scores are just skyrocketing in favor of the US, just due to the fact that Austen is not being able to keep up with this at all. And I feel this is a turning point for the United States. Winning 3 maps in a row is what exactly they were looking for. With a couple of misses at the ending, it's not going to be that big of a thing as they take the lead. They take 4 maps in their own against 3 from Japan with a 70,000 points of difference in their favor. They're back into the game after being down 3-1. Now on the lead 4-3, and Japan takes the pick. It's gonna be a Nature of Dying, so probably the last Rise remaining map, at least if you don't consider BBV as a pick here, because BBV is pretty particular. Nature of Dying, more to core stream, more stamina, very, very dense, and almost 5 minutes of length. So we're gonna have to wait and see how these two teams perform. With an OD of 9.5, accuracies are definitely gonna be a strong point. If they want to somehow pull this out, Japan will have to stay strong during 5 minutes of beat map here. Some break-all action. And here we are, the nature of dying. Hopefully, Japan is making the wise decision, picking this one. Have to wait and see. I wouldn't be surprised if we see good performance from pretty much every single one of these players, as this map is pretty well suited into everyone's skill sets in this one, I will say. Dense core streaming and overall stamina, I believe, are the stronger points for these two teams. Stupid Man with his accuracy might be able to edge out the difference in favor of the United States, but again, it will come down to Squishy's combo abilities as well, because if he cannot keep up the combo during this 5 minutes length, then that will be the point that Japan is looking for. So you can see the map introducing break-all-ish patterns. I'm not really sure if we can call break-all patterns this, but considering how popular the break-all genre is on Mania, when you see a pattern, you imagine the song is sort of break-all, and this is no exception. Pretty broken chords here. I'm not sure if that's a term that's pretty popular, but a broken chord having like breaks in between each of the sections. Favoring so far the Japanese team, as they are both full comboing through this map, and Squishy is not able to keep up with the combo. I think accuracy wise, United States might be very close to Japan here. Ausen with a 99.7 is definitely edging that difference, but nonetheless, scores are not that far away. And I'm seeing people in the chat saying, why is Ausen so inconsistent? And I'm gonna tell you, Ausen is very consistent. In fact, not being good at some certain types of maps sort of speaks of how consistent you are, because some people have issues where they miss consistently on sections. Just because they are pretty consistent, that means they cannot get something out of the reach right by any means. And Ausen is one of those players. When he is on his range, he's very consistent and very accurate, as you can see on this one. But that means when you throw something that he's not comfortable with, like long nose or SB, he's gonna struggle, and quite hard. That's what we have seen throughout the whole match. And now we see a couple of breaks from him into this denser section, but Squishy as well equalizes back in favor of Japan, as only 15,000 points of difference separates these two teams. And into this core jacks, Quicklid finds a break, and only Superman can fly away with 1,000 combo in his own. Map is still on the reach for the United States to recover, but when you have a map that is so long, 5 minutes, 10,000 points of difference suddenly means a lot more than what you usually would expect. I would say they need at least 3-4 misses from Japan in order to recover from this. Only a third of the map remains here, and as you can see, there's around 15,000 points in favor of Japan. And they're looking quite solid for this, but there's a break from Quickly just before the break. That might just give a slim bright of hope, a little bit of chance for the United States in order to recover from this. But again, Squishy is equalizing those breaks from Quickly pretty much instantly, and the scores will not get anywhere further, neither closer. And as the map is about to conclude here, it seems like besides the stellar performance here by Stupid Man, Ausen is just shutting that one down with a 99.5. So definitely being the star player on this particular map. Seems like Japan will take this one without many issues. So getting to the outro here, Quickly finds another drop. But but it won't be enough with 20,000 this far into the beat map, and it's such a long one. I don't think the United States has any chance to recover. So scores are gonna be tied again once more. Against once more, that's funny. 4-4. It's gonna be unless something very, very crazy happens here, Japan will take the 4th pick in their favor, with Ausen pretty much destroying this beat map completely. You can see 99.5 on a map that is 5 minutes long and has such dense patterns. Definitely a great performance by him. 980,000. Best ratio as well on the room. Look at the ratio from Quickly though, a little bit on the low side, costing him to be quite close actually to Squishy's performance, besides the amount of misses. But that's it for this one. 8 maps being played already, scores are still tied, and the US needs to make their last decision. The last pick for them on the entire match. It's gonna be Crystallize. And with Crystallize, I'm not so sure what to think about. I mean, there's BBB still left. With Crystallize, there's only one more, and I think Celestial Stinger, which is arguably one of the hardest maps on the pool as well. So Crystallize is probably the safest pick for the United States here. I'm not so sure if this is gonna benefit them at all, because this is a pretty, I mean, it's sort of a long no pick, mostly featuring shorter lands, which are arguably pretty hard to read. And Ausen has shown difficulties before with maps that are overall hard to read. So it's not that bad for the United States, but it's just a matter of how well they can keep up onto this, because this also has SV, which means that Squishy might not be as comfortable playing this. We'll have to see here though. As the map is about to start, this is again one of the longest songs in the pool again, with 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Is this gonna be the chance for the United States? Or will Japan shut down the dreams from the Americans by taking the last point of the US? Remember, whoever wins this will be on match point, which means that if they win the next one, they will win the match. But it also means that whoever wins this ensures at least a tiebreaker. For their own, of course. And here we go into the SVs. We see Squishy dropping a couple of 200s in it. Actually a 50 there, so no good news. Still holding the combo, but there it goes. Definitely not a good thing for the United States, as Japan rampages through this. But Quickly having issues with all long notes, a big one actually, dropping a lot of accuracy and a lot of combo, with Quickly dropping the combo as well. United States will take the lead into the early game here. And here we are, a bit of a burst here, and the mini jacks, nobody drops the combo, but Ausen and Squishy just after that will trade misses. But the trades are gonna favor the United States as Quickly and Ausen constantly drops onto this section. Ausen is just not able to keep up with this at all. But again, Squishy is not that far off in terms of accuracy, so this could be very, very close at the ending. A third of the map already in, and the United States is holding a decent lead of 20,000 points. But even Quickly now is dropping a lot. Stupid Man as well equalizes, but his 99% is keeping the US afloat. Can he hold into this? Scores are getting a little bit more in favor of the United States, but Quickly is starting to recover here, and that on its own will get that lead a little bit, I won't say in favor of Japan, but it will get a little bit shorter. And he's playing full imbers now. Look at this. This is a champ. Quickly is just playing the champ strat here with full imbers playing. What is he doing? How can he keep up with it? Even with all the nerfs. But Ausen is just not able to keep up with this, as I was mentioning previously. 95% for him. Definitely on the low side, and Stupid Man is outclassing Quickly, not by much, but doing so rightfully. And Squishy just needs to hold on to his performance right now. He doesn't need to do any better than this. As long as as long as Stupid can just keep up with his accuracy, United States should have this with not many issues. With a 4-minute length beat map, 40,000 points of difference is quite a bit actually. And Ausen just constantly drops into these sections. Besides the performance from Quickly into this Ki, it's not gonna be enough, as Ausen and Squishy keeps trading misses. There's a big drop there for everyone actually, just before the tricky long nose here. Pretty nasty shields here by Bloco. But it's looking great for the US actually. The score difference is just getting larger and larger. And after all, the United States, after losing their first point, are gonna be now back up once more, 5-4. Guaranteeing at least a tiebreaker for them, which is a good thing. But that means that Japan has to be very, very careful with what they pick. It's gonna be the last pick of the match. It's gonna be the last one for Japan, and the last chance for them to beat the United States and force a tiebreaker here. Remember, whoever loses this match will get knocked out of the tournament, as this is a loser's bracket encounter. So yeah, there you have it. 100,000 points of difference in favor of the United States. And Ausen and Quickly both realizing already that there's no way to come back onto this. They need to win the next one. Otherwise, it's game over for the Asians.
All right,
And here we go. Oh, you're back.
Jump back into this. Yeah, I think my internet issues are starting to go back to normal. Hopefully.
Well, what a moment to get back into this, though.
Yeah, I know. But United States does take it to match point. First time we see match point in this match. Obviously, 5-4. Between vv240312579 and what's the other map remaining?
Celestial Stinger?
Celestial Stinger. I don't know what to expect out of their pick. I mean, the speed choice went very well for them to start. But is Celestial Stinger more speed, or is that chord stream based?
Well, I mean, it's like chord stream. It's mostly just speed, really. It has a bit of a length, so that's the tricky thing. Probably for Ausen to like hold on to the extra long no layer that the map has throughout the whole thing. But again, I don't know if Squishy is gonna be able to keep up with it that well. And again, this is the first time on the whole match after 9 maps that Japan is taking longer than 10 seconds to pick a map. So they're definitely taking this with a lot of care, and they're going straight for B. That was 4 Bs, right? It's actually 3 Bs. So it's B. So Celestial Stinger being completely ignored here. Gonna go straight into B, and the last chance for Japan to equalize and force a tiebreaker.
Yeah, I was gonna mention before the pick that Japan probably wanted to take a longer time to pick that. They knew what they were gonna go for. I mean, this is arguably most important pick of this match for Japan. If they lose this, they're out of the tournament. If they win this, they've given themselves another chance.
It's definitely a hard spot to be if you're Japan, honestly. And I wouldn't want to be there, honestly. I mean, Ausen and Quickly have been playing absurdly well. Ausen with his performance on Nature of Dying was superb. Quickly has been consistent throughout every single one of the maps so far. And it just comes down to this. It comes down to BBB, and if they can win it, if they manage to pull it out, then they will be forcing a Genryu Kaiko for the first time on the semifinals.
And if that does happen, that'll mean Japan will have played 3 tiebreakers in a row.
That's actually pretty. I mean, it makes you think. It makes you wonder.
I mean, they would have been the team that played the only tiebreaker of each round, assuming there isn't going to be another semifinals tiebreaker, which obviously we don't know yet, since this was only the second match.
You know,
But
the most funny part about it is that they almost went to tiebreaker in groups as well. The US barely took that 4-2 lead in their favor with a very, very close match. So, if that happens again, man, that would be pretty funny.
right out of the gate, though, Quickly does find a break right there and gives US not only accuracy advantages, but also combo advantages, which gives them a solid lead starting off right now. However, this is a bit of the easier part of the map, I'd say. A bit less dense, a bit slower than the rest of it, though Squishy finding a lot of breaks. So does Quicklet and Stupid Man, but Allison holding through it.
Oh no, Squishy. The slow jump is killing him. Oh no, this is gonna be Japan, isn't it? Stupid Man and Squishy are just dropping. I cannot believe the scores is flickering back to Japan now. Oh my goodness. A third of the map remaining and Japan is back on the lead, but anything can happen. Song is getting faster and faster, and Ausen playing out of his mind here with a full combo. Is he going to force a tiebreaker? Oh my, Quicklet!
Quicklet and Squishy both finding drops though, but that is going to be it. Japan is going to take the point. Tiebreaker time. Japan's going to be playing 3 tiebreakers in a row.
3 tiebreakers in a row, 20,000 points in favor of Japan. And Ausen, how do I approach you to say, what a play? What a play from Ausen in such a hard position to be. He pulls the FC off with 42,000 points, forces a tiebreaker, gives Japan another chance, and we're gonna see Genryu Kaiko. Right now, I don't know who's gonna win this at all. I don't know what you think, Tob, though. I have no clue who's gonna beat each other here.
It's just unreal. I'm not sure who to expect to win. I mean, this has a lot of focus on LNs, which Ausen was showing major discomfort in, whereas the United States, both of their players were at least holding on to them. So at least through the LN sections, I can expect the United States to at least take some amount of advantage, but everywhere else, I don't know what to expect.
Rightfully so. The US is asking for a minute of break, and they definitely deserve it. Gonna take a minute to, you know, take a drink, maybe a glass of water. Trying to consider what's the best lineup for this, how they should play this out.
I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't even think a lineup is an issue. They're probably going to go with what has been working for them, which is Stupid Men and Squishy, and in the same token, Japan's probably going to go with Ausen versus Quicklet. They are the strongest players on each team. It's just a matter of making sure you are fully prepared for the tiebreaker and that you don't let your nerves get the best of you when something like this happens.
Alright there, this is it. The tournament life of both of these teams now only being decided by Genryu Kaiko. 5-5 is the score, and whoever takes this will live another day and will face the winner of Brazil versus France on the second losers bracket encounter of the semi-finals. Whoever loses gets knocked out of the tournament.
Huge stakes for both teams here. They're going to have to play their best game if they want their best chance of, you know, moving on in this tournament. I mean, making top 8 is a huge achievement for this. That being in the top quarter of the participants is just, well, I guess not top quarter. For this, in this case, it'd be top third. But either way, top 8 is a huge deal in this situation.
Definitely. And this is a really interesting choice as a tiebreaker, though, because there's some inverse that will probably cause a lot of issues to Ausen. But again, there's also pretty dense court streaming at the very end of this beat map, which means that Ausen will likely be outperforming the US during that part. So it's mostly gonna be decided by those two major pods. How much does Ausen drop on the inverse? How much does Squishy drop on the dense court stream? And how well does overall Quicklead and Stupid Man haul through the whole beat map? but the slow Imbus here are not really getting too much into Ausen, finding eventual drops, but not as many.
Yeah, US not really comfortable with those slower LN inverse patterns, but some faster ones will be coming up later on in the map, which I'd assume are going to trip up Ausen possibly, though we can't tell for sure yet.
Here we go, the first dart I need. The first chorus is starting now with the shorter lens. And we have seen Ausen before struggling with this sort of pattern. There you have
there
it.
Is.
Completely
dropping a lot of combo and accuracy there. US holding on pretty strong, but the lead not going too far into their favor at this point. With Quickly, it's still holding above 99%.
Oh, he failed! Wow, Ausen just straight up failed the map on that part. The right-handed Imbus long nose section, then transitioning into left, was a big deal for him. But the full Imbus completely destroying his accuracy and combo. Even his HP bar has been completely depleted. He's now back. But that was a big drop by Japan, and Quickly as well now following.
Inverse not being a fun thing for Ausen to handle, but the accuracy for Quickly does drop to a point where he's not quite able to carry them at the moment. Lead does hold in favor of the US by 40,000 points. And despite that not being too much for most maps, given how long this is, that does require a lot of mistakes on the side of the US to give Japan a good chance of coming back.
Oh man, this dance core streams here now is starting to show up. But nobody's dropping. Squishy's the first one though. It's gonna give a bit of an opportunity for Japan to recover. I'm not sure if there's many long nose sections remaining, so it mostly comes down to how much can Squishy keep up with this throughout the whole map, and how many misses we're gonna see from Japan.
Quickly is dropping a bit. Ausen did find a few drops before, but Superman and Squishy holding very strong. Squishy dropping right at the end of that, but still holding pretty strong through the whole section. 2/3 of the way into the map, we're seeing some drops on this really slow inverse section, akin to Avril 17 or 14th from the finals pool. But it is not going to do much to the lead for the time being. Japan is making up a little bit of ground with it though. US holding on to the lead for the time being.
Yeah, a little bit of a break here to regain a bit of stamina, but after this comes the very dense core stream. Score lead is around 40,000 points in favor of the US, but Squishy is not able to keep up with such dense core stream we're about to see. Japan definitely has still a chance to get back into this. And remember, they are fighting for the tournament lives, and here we go, last section.
Yeah, and I think this ending section does have some major LN play, which will give Ausen a lot of problems and could be fail potential, like we're seeing him drop a lot, but everyone is dropping a lot in this LN section. Oh
man, here we go with the last core stream here, the last thing of the map, and Squishy's dropping Quickly as well, but Squishy's dropping quite a bit here. If Quickly can just recover to this, they might have a chance. Now Stupid Man dropping, but the scores are not getting any closer, although they are climbing a little bit. Japan is not being able to catch up with the difference, and the US is looking victorious right now with only like less than 40 seconds remaining. The US is looking strong at this. Are they gonna win this? It's looking like it.
More LNs coming in, the final stretch of this map coming in. Squishy finding a drop right there. LN inverse coming. Ausen having major problems though.
Watch out with the HP balls here
inverse.
Though. Watch out with the HP balls. Nobody's dropping those. Ausen is a little bit complicated by this, but no fails at the ending. This is it. This is a win for the US by 80,000 points of difference. And what a match we have just witnessed. What a match we just saw there. Best score goes for Quickly, but other than that, every single player here played extraordinarily well. And what a match. If this isn't one of the best matches of the tournament, I will say this is probably the best match of the tournament so far.
Yeah, with how many extraordinarily close maps there were in this match, it's just hard to put this as not the best match that we've at least seen so far in this tournament. Obviously, there could be more that, you know, are even closer or have even better matches. But so far, I think it's safe to say this is the most intense match we've had in the 7-key World Cup.
Most likely it was. I mean, man, since the very beginning, like, this match was actually a tiebreaker, but the first 2 matches were decided by less than 3,000 points each. Like, that's just crazy. Every single map choice here was so well thought, and that was just a fantastic showcase of 7-key across the board, really. US and Japan, both teams playing extraordinarily well. And it's unfortunate we have to see Japan go, but at one point there's only one winner, and this time it was the US. So that's it for the tournament for Japan, although a very good run for them, and overall mind-blowing performance across the board throughout the whole bracket stage. I will say they did extraordinarily well, forcing tiebreakers out of Chile and Indonesia, and now the United States. So now what's left? It's the next wave of matches we're gonna see tomorrow.
Yeah, so that match marks the end of this first block. We have a 7-hour break, I believe, before the next match starts. And that next match will be Malaysia versus South Korea.
You are absolutely correct, yes. Malaysia versus South Korea is the next one in about 7 hours. If I recall correctly, it's followed up by China versus Singapore, and afterwards we're gonna see Italy versus the Philippines. So it's gonna be an interesting wave of matches. I'm really excited to see Chiwi playing against Jackads on the same multiplayer room. I'm pretty excited to see China versus Singapore, see if Singapore can pull out the upset and get into top 3.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting to note, next 2 matches, Malaysia, South Korea, China, those are the 2 winners bracket matches. So all 4 of those teams are still going to be in the tournament regardless of the results of that match. But it is going to determine who gets a guaranteed top 3 spot and who has to fight for that last spot in the top 3.
Yep, but that's gonna be it for us today, or at least for this vlog, because technically we are on Saturday already. Remember though that if you want, there are banners up on the O store that you can purchase if you want to support one of the teams that are remaining on the tournament. Feel free to do so. That's gonna help us raise the prize pool for the winners. So it will stay on your user page. It looks pretty fancy. If you happen to select a team to support a team that wins the World Cup at the very end, your banner will stay for a little bit longer. So that being said, you can get yourself a banner on the O store. It's $2.50 if I recall correctly. So feel free to do so. If not, it's all good. We all love that you are just watching the stream. And that was it for me and Top for today. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in 7 hours.